Survival is a semi-recurring game mode in the Call of Duty series, and I'm willing to bet one that most of you associate with Modern Warfare 3, thinking that's where the mode originated. I wouldn't blame you. I thought the exact same thing until recently when I learned that, no, survival mode actually predates Modern Warfare 3 by about 2 years, debuting in the DS version of Modern Warfare 2. And it's no wonder that so few people know about it, not only being in the DS version of Modern Warfare 2, but being an absolute pain to unlock as well. You have to beat the campaign on its hardest difficulty. I never managed that as a kid. Modern Warfare 2 is really hard on DS, even on normal difficulty, with how quickly enemies can slot you in the head, but I ain't a kid anymore. I'm an adult, and so, learning that this mode exists, and knowing that I would want to make a video talking about it, I cracked my knuckles, got my obligatory Doritos and Mountain Dew ready, loaded up my DS, and entered the cheat code on the main menu that unlocks it for me. Unlike child me, I actually know how to use Google. As you can probably guess, this game's survival mode is very different to what the mode would become in later Call of Duty games. The best way I can think to describe it is, imagine yourself being put in a very small, fenced-off area you can barely move in, and then this happens at you. Unlike later survival modes, this one isn't wave-based and is just about surviving for as long as you can, which isn't very long at all, and you can't bring in a friend to act as a meat shield for you, you gotta raw dog those bullets on your lonesome. The game is basically this. At the start, there are 3 random weapons on the floor for you to pick up, and they refresh every minute you survive. You're given like 15 seconds to quickly pick up which ones you want, and then the enemies start spawning in. To begin with, there can only be 2 enemies at once, but this increases by 1 every minute that passes as well. There are 4 different maps to pick from, all of them tiny, often with very little cover to hide behind. Not that it would even help you much, as the enemies completely surround you and shoot at you from every angle. And even if you are lucky and find a bit of cover you can crouch behind, the game turns into a portable version of World at War on Veteran, and the enemies will constantly throw grenades at you to try and flush you out. It's the digital equivalent of shooting fish in a barrel, except you're the fish and you also have a gun. It's a brutal, lightning-quick game mode where you aren't expected to survive that long. I think the best I ever managed was literally like 4 minutes. And honestly, that's fine. Sometimes how quickly you die is frustrating, and that makes it tempting to want to come down on it for being too hard. And while I do wish maybe the mode could be a little longer, I think it does still work. It's full throttle straight from the start, so having to restart over and over again never becomes frustrating or boring. I think for what they're going for here, an unlockable side mode on a handheld console, something to play for a bit of fun that's different to the rest of the game, but that isn't the main reason you're playing it that day, I think it works well enough. It really tests your skills, and you end up playing it completely differently to anything else in the game, making it feel pretty unique. You can't just hide, shoot at the enemies, and methodically move from cover to cover like you do in the campaign. You're dead if you even dare stay still long enough to scratch your nose. No, you're here zip zooming all over the place, one eye on the top screen, and the other checking the radar to see where the enemies are, positioning yourself far away from them before dashing to the other side of the level when they try and get you, scooting past them as they're mid-movement, less accurate, and throwing grenades at where you used to be, taking pot shots at any enemy who dares get too close. I think it compares especially favourably to this game's sequel and its Zombies mode. There's definitely a bit of the DNA of what would go on to become the DS versions of Zombies here. In theory, a lot of my complaints from that mode should apply here. 4 tiny maps and incredibly short play sessions, though I feel that ethos definitely harmed zombies more than it does survival. Trying to commit to the gameplay loop of zombies, a long, extended play session type game, into a short, quick-fire experience was kind of lame, because you spend most of your time slogging through the early boring rounds to try and get to the more interesting later rounds, which is never satisfying because you just die the moment you get to them anyway. This is a more enjoyable experience because it's a lot more consistent. Even the early minutes of the game can still be quite challenging. Though that isn't to say it's perfect or without flaws, as you might expect from a silly tacked on side mode. Like, it being time-based is fine, but I think it probably would have worked better if it was round-based. It didn't take me long to realise there wasn't actually any reason to shoot back at the enemies. It slows you down, makes you an easier target, and doesn't even slow down the enemy onslaught. Killed enemies respawn nearly instantly upon their death. Not to mention, it just makes the enemies less predictable because you don't know where they're gonna spawn next. So by the end of my time playing, I didn't interact with the enemies at all, which feels kinda silly when the game mode tries to give you so many different weapons to use. Like, in what world am I going to try and use an RPG or a sniper rifle here? I may as well just turn them on myself and save the enemies some effort. I'd feel more inclined to experiment with the different weapon types and actually fire the guns if it was round-based, and I actually had to fight back against the enemies to progress. This problem is exacerbated on levels where the enemies can't easily flank you. In the level Withstand, you're completely surrounded on all sides by space where enemies can freely walk around, and in Outlast you're in the middle of a street surrounded on 2 sides. There's nowhere to hide on these maps. But in Persistence and Endure, the enemy has fewer spots where they can stand and shoot, meaning it's really easy to find a piece of cover to hide behind, and the enemy will have no idea what to do about it, just literally breaking. It's all about the timer, so you just gotta bunker down and keep an eye on the minimap every minute to make sure no new enemies spawn behind you. And even if you get grenades thrown at you, most of them will land on the wrong side of cover to hurt you, and the enemies don't cook grenades, so you always have plenty of time to throw them back. This was the best way I found of reaching the longer times in this survival mode, and it wouldn't have been possible at all if the game was just round-based. So, I'm conflicted, I guess. There is that desire in me to kind of let it go a bit and give it a free pass, like I said earlier. It's a secret unlockable in a game that had an insanely fast dev cycle that didn't need to be here at all, and probably didn't have all that much time or staff assigned to its development. It might not be incredible, but it's a miracle it's even here in the game at all, and that alone is pretty cool and interesting to experience just because of that fact. But on the other hand, it's hard to deny that it does fall short, and there's definitely things it could have done, even with that tight development cycle in mind, to improve itself. It's a fun mode to play, but the most fun way to play it, actually trying to shoot back and play it like it's Call of Duty, is the worst tactic you can do. The way the mode is designed pretty much punishes you for actually trying to play the game normally, and forces you to adopt this wild, insane, Sonic the Hedgehog-esque playstyle. And while that's fun in its own way, it's not what I expected from the mode, and not really what I'd want from the mode to encourage me to go back and play it again later. It's a shame it was never iterated on in later entries, because it could have probably turned into an amazing mode. But as it stands here, it's just a weird oddity. It's remarkable only because it beat the main series to establishing the mode. It's the only reason I'm talking about it now. In a sense, the most valuable thing about survival on Modern Warfare 2 DS isn't whether it's good or bad, it's just the fact it exists, and that's a fun tidbit to tell people. Call of Duty on DS is always a fun time, and while I doubt I'll be rushing to play this specific part of them again anytime soon, or ever, I'm still happy I checked it out regardless, and that cheat codes exist so I didn't have to torture myself to unlock it.